I was almost gonna do this whole setup where I have like a light and a tripod and stuff so that I could do like a regular style sit down static camera kind of vlog, but then I realized that wouldn't be thematically appropriate. Yeah, that's why I did it. That's exactly why I did it, because I'm trying to be mindful about the themes of my vlogs. So I hope everybody's been doing okay since all this started. I haven't been doing very much. That's not true. But yeah, today I wanted to talk a little bit more in depth about found footage and first-person camera stuff. See what I mean when I said that this is more thematically appropriate than setting it on the tripod and bare minimum. So when I talk about found footage, I'm really referring to any kind of first-person camera, low-budget thing. I also include desktop films in there, films that include a computer screen. A lot of the more experimental type stuff is the stuff I'm really trying to include when I talk about this, because I think that found footage is still, despite the fact that it's been around for like 30 years or so, like one of the youngest and most underutilized kinds of filmmaking. And I think that as a form of filmmaking that is the most accessible, for obvious reasons, should probably be used a lot more to whatever effect it's used. So you guys know that I talk about like the Slenderverse stuff a lot. It's usually the thing that I talk about the most when it comes to found footage. I've made recommendations of different series and stuff. And I've talked about the Slenderverse like pretty much to a fault, so I'm gonna probably sidestep from the Slenderverse stuff a lot, but I just want to briefly say that it is a good example of just, people working within their means and making stuff that's low budget, but also just people being able to tell the stories they want to tell. It's what I consider to be like one of the quickest ways to start to understand how you can do low budget storytelling. Matter of fact, I would say it's like the perfect place for anybody that wants to try that to start. And then there's Marble Hornets, which is not Slenderverse technically, and kind of started everything. And one of the big things to bring up with it is how it kind of established a lot of tropes that found footage online specifically would try to emulate, using Twitter accounts to kind of tie into the stories, distortion and other visual stuff. There's all sorts of things that Marble Hornets kind of set the precedent for that a lot of people used after the fact to different effects, and I'll get into that more later. Now, I think I've talked at length before about my process for Stan Frederick in one case or another. I talk about like how I wrote the story and how I made the monsters, so you get a little bit of an idea for how I did things like with a low budget. But I wanted to talk a little bit more extensively about like planning stuff like locations and planning stuff like things that you have to keep in mind when you don't have money to make something. I would say that if you're working within your means, you want to create a space where you have a mutual understanding with the people that you work with. If you're going to be working with people, that this is like a fun thing that you're working on with them. And it becomes as much theirs as it is yours. And that's kind of important, I think, to kind of keep in mind, because, yeah, you're making something, but, you're having people help you with it that are not necessarily being compensated. So that's in terms of working with people, but obviously if you're working on a low budget, there's other things that you could do, like work alone and make a series that has mostly just you in it, or a project that has mostly you in it. It doesn't have to be a series. I think I should clarify that. The main point of a project like this is to see how you can do with storytelling with very little. Like this, just the fact that you could have a camera in one space, you could use your phone camera for God's sake, and you could just walk around and you could do like one small thing and create a world just like that. I think the greatest example I could think of right now of that is this series that I found on TikTok. Please don't leave. It's just about a person that goes down some stairs and kicks some cinder blocks. That's the whole premise of the story, and I was hooked on it and marathoned the entire thing in one sitting. The videos range from very, very short to still pretty short. And it's this perfect example, I think, of like first-person camera found footage style content that is very within your means and is supposed to be the whole point of that kind of content. A person made this in 2 or 3 rooms of their home, I'm pretty sure, for very little, and all it is just what they had at their disposal, you know, like just shot with what was around them. Something that made them feel a certain way or something. And it's striking, almost. Something as simple as that. And it's one of the things that I find so strange about projects that attempt to kind of expand their budget after they've become successful enough in a realm like that, in a format like found footage or first-person camera. Because there's something really personal about holding the camera close to your face or just filming like it's actually happening. And there's something very strange about removing that part of your art when that's kind of supposed to be the most intimate part about it. And I'm not trying to say that big budget stuff is inherently not as good as found footage or first person camera stuff. I think I'm just trying to say that there's a piece of it that gets removed or a part of it that gets lost in trying to add production value to something. I think production value is inherently seen as this enhancing factor when it's just a different factor. It doesn't have to be something that enhances or takes away from a work. It's just a different kind of work. Hi, I'm Mary Mary. Another great example. One of my favorite web series out there. And by the way, the closest thing I think to what Marble Hornets was doing culturally is now what this series is doing culturally. It's setting a lot of new precedents, I think, which I don't think a series has done in a while. And that's an added bonus, and it's really cool. But yeah, Hi, I'm Mary Mary is all filmed in a house. Somebody just filming at home, and there's something just so wonderful about that to me. Somebody took a home, a house, and created a story about being forced to stay in a house. And that rules. That's so cool. I love that. How often have you seen something local in your area, in your neighborhood, or even in your own house that you thought looked so unique and was so filmable, if you know what I mean? You ever passed by a place in a car and been like, oh, it'd be so dope to film there? I think everybody that makes movie stuff has at least one time had that feeling and that thought. I don't think it occurs to many people, though, that they can create an entire world around that one place or around that one object or idea. And that's how a lot of my stuff has been made recently. Not just found footage, my cinematic stuff too. A lot of it starts with just me looking at something and being able to structure something around it because it's what I have. And a lot of neat stuff, I think, can come out of it. And so all of this stuff comes together. You have like a place or an object that gets you really excited about making a film. And on top of it now, if you're doing it in found footage or handheld camera, you now have a really simple means to bring that thing to life without having to get bogged down in crazy production stuff. Because as much as I like production and I like cinematic storytelling, and I think cinematic storytelling is important, there's also something very new and very simple about being able to just turn on a camera, point it at yourself, and you guys are kind of getting the feeling that this is the whole idea and theme of this video, right? It was intentional. It was intentional. But yeah, this actually ended up being a really fun thing to talk about. I wanted to tack on at the very end here, though, that there is one found footage project that I think does not get talked about very much. It's not necessarily the first ever found footage thing, but it predates the Blair Witch Project. It was released in the late 80s, and it pretty much accidentally sets the precedent for a lot of online found footage stuff. It's very good. It's called The Forbidden Files, and I had plans, or me and a friend had been talking about for a long time actually, working together on an essay about it, because not much stuff is out there really talking about it extensively. There's some pretty decent articles, but other than that. So one of these days, could be in a month, could be in a year, I don't know. I would love to make an essay talking more about that with my friend. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. The Twitter, Instagram, like this video, comment, you can subscribe if you want. It's 5 things so far. I have a TikTok now. Please don't leave. Actually, watch this TikTok and then decide if you want to leave. There's hopefully some new videos coming soon. I'm in the middle of working on a new short film, so far I've released 1 film a month and then some. I actually have 5 films out already, and it's May, and I was working on this as the 6th one. So hopefully there will be some new stuff coming soon. Thank you guys for being patient. I hope everybody's staying safe amidst all this craziness that's going on. And yeah, take care of yourselves. I'll see you soon.